This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, the October 7th, 2020, oh, I can't believe it's October already. October 7th, 2020, Gerhardt City Council meeting is now in session. Before we get started, I'd like to ask if anyone has a declaration of any conflict of interest at this time. Okay. Just want to give a shout out to everybody. If anyone wants to speak, publicly, please send an email to chadsweet@cityofgerhardt.com, and we'll put you on the list for our public feedback period. We have a 3-minute public feedback visitors period right after correspondence, and we'd love to hear from anybody. So if you do want to speak at our visitor section, all you got to do is just email chadsweet@cityofgerhardt.com, name and your address, and we'll put you on the list to speak. If nobody has signed up, we'll call for folks at that time as well to make sure everyone gets a chance. If anyone has called in, just a reminder, please put your phone on mute to start with. That way we won't have any sound issues or feedback. Again, just for late callers, if you do want to speak tonight, just email chadsweet@cityofgerhardt.com, and we'll include you in the 3-minute visitor section after correspondence. So we'd love to hear from anybody. Next up, we have the approval of minutes for the regular meeting of September 2nd, 2020. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve with one correction, and that would be there's a duplicate on the last line on the motion to adjourn.
You're a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a second by Councillor Fackrell. And all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Great. Carrie, if you're there, take your phone off mute.
And also, Mayor Brown, may I just check to see if Carol Connell is online? Yes, she is. See it right there.
Carol, can you hear us okay? Good. Carrie, you're okay? Good.
Yep. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem at all. We'll get through it, buddy. Next up, Planning Commission report. Was there a Planning Commission report in there?
They didn't meet last month.
They didn't meet last month.
No, that was
next up,
having internet issues that day at the very last moment.
right. So next up, we have the mayor's report. And I do have a couple of important things to go over tonight. I'll start with the bad news. Just a quick COVID-19 update. I think we've been inundated with enough of that. There are currently in Clatsop County, as of yesterday, 238 positive cases. 97 of them have recovered, so there's still an active 141 cases. Now we know that a lot of that is due to the specific food plant in Wellington, which is being hopefully taken care of right now. Excuse me, caller. I think there's a caller 3 and 4. Could you please put your phone on mute? We're getting some audio feedback. Christy, is it possible to mute Carrie and Carol?
No, it's not me.
I can mute myself if you want.
Yeah, just mute for a second, but we have another caller, caller 4 that, could we put you on mute?
It was Carrie's that was lighting up.
Okay.
Yeah, I muted caller 3 and caller 4 for now, and that seemed to have cleaned it up. And just remember when we go into the visitor section to unmute them so they have a chance.
Sounds great. Again, if you just called in, if you want to talk during the visitors section, please email chadsweet@cityofgearhart.com. We'll get you on the list. So the main issue with the rising cases of COVID is that the governor has put Clatsop County on the COVID watch list, and that means there is a risk that we could have to go back to phase 1 from phase 2. But the Oregon Health Authority came out and said that the odds of that happening are fairly slim, as long as there's good contact tracing and catching all the cases that have spiked. So long-term prognosis is good. We're still in a good spot, but definitely need to get through the surge in cases for sure. So just a reminder again, we got to be diligent. We got to wear our masks. We got to social distance and wash our hands. And we'll try to get through this as best we can. Now on to the good news. Small business, Cedar, our Clatsop County Economic Development Resources Division has made an announcement about small business grant program for Clatsop County. And it's for any business that has received less than $100,000 from federal relief are now eligible to do that. They weren't eligible before if they received any money, but now they are eligible. And I believe the county has up to $200,000 available for small businesses, and they want to give that money away. So this is an email from Director Kevin Leahy, Executive Director of Cedar. Cedar is pleased to announce a new grant program with expanded eligibility for Clatsop County small businesses and nonprofit organizations impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. State of Oregon grants of $5,000 and above are now available to small businesses that have received less than $100,000 in federal relief from programs like the Paycheck Protection Program and the EIDL Loan Advance Disaster Loan Program as well. Businesses with 25 or fewer employees are eligible if they were forced to shut down by state order or can demonstrate a 25% drop in gross revenue in a given month between March and August of 2020 compared to the same month in 2019. Applications are now available online. The grant application can be completed online at clatsopcc.edu/cedar. All applicants must be submitted by Friday, October 16th. So that's coming up next week. And businesses are strongly encouraged to apply as soon as possible. If the total amount of grant funds requested exceed the available funds, a random selection process will conduct to determine grant awards. So this is a great thing. So I encourage all small businesses in Gearhart and Clatsop County to definitely apply. In a related subject, we kicked off our Small Business Education Committee, Resources and Education Committee last week. We had a great first meeting, just a quick meet and greet and to go over our goals for the committee. We have 3 very important goals that we're trying to accomplish. Number 1 is to create a continually update a small business resources webpage on the City of Gearhart website to help local businesses be more successful. Number 2, to educate existing and new businesses on the uses and opportunities available in our current commercial zoning. And number 3, to attract new businesses in Gearhart that meet the needs of the community and fit in with the character of the Gearhart comp plan and our zoning. So the first meeting went really well. We estimate on our committee, including myself, we've got almost 50 years of combined small business experience. And we really see this committee evolving over time and doing a lot of things to help small businesses. So really excited to get started on that, and really excited to have a great group that has so much business experience. I think it's going to be really good for Gearhart. Next up, I want to give a quick, kind of a long shout out to something that's near and dear to my heart, the Gearhart City Planning Commission. I was on it for 7+ years. Paulina was on it for a number of years, Dan Jesse as well. But they do a really, really good job, and I just want to talk a little bit about what they're doing right now. As you know well, our citizens and residents are the true heartbeat of our community. And nothing represents that more than our amazing volunteers on our Gearhart Planning Commission. They have been instrumental in writing common sense legislation that protects and promotes our comprehensive plan. A great example of this is the work they did on the short-term rental regulations in 2016, protecting our community from unlimited vacation rentals with no legal safety or septic requirements. I couldn't be more proud of the recent work that they've done on proposing more uses and revenue options in our beloved downtown C1 neighborhood commercial zone. This work has come from years of feedback from residents and business owners who want to see new businesses fill in the vacant grocery store location and see existing businesses be able to thrive under difficult circumstances. The Planning Commission's goal is to have a vibrant neighborhood commercial sector while adhering to the character outlined in the Gearhart Comprehensive Plan. I want to tell you how many great conversations I've had with folks telling me what they'd like to see go into the vacant grocery store location. In turn, I've told stories about how much that location means to me growing up in Gearhart and riding my bike to Kerr's Market as a kid to buy candy and comic books. Or more recently, stopping in to get a deli sandwich on my way to the mailbox during my lunch break. In a lot of ways, that grocery store location has always been the crown jewel of downtown Gearhart, something we are very proud of and need to support. We all want that feeling again, and the Planning Commission is trying to answer that call. Thank you, Planning Commission, for your extraordinary work and diligence on this subject. You and the council have shown tremendous leadership, and as with many other issues in the past, the Planning Commission has done most of the heavy lifting. Because of these modern language proposals, the influx of new full-time residents in Gearhart, and the creation of our new Small Business Education Committee, I believe we have a bright future for small business, all the while keeping Gearhart the quiet residential community we all know and love. The Planning Commission has an upcoming public hearing scheduled for tomorrow, Thursday, the 8th of October at 6 p.m. to get public feedback and testimony for these modern language amendments that they're working on. The goal of the amendments is to modernize some of the uses in the downtown zone to allow current and future businesses to have more options, increased revenue, and be more successful and vibrant, while eliminating some of the outdated and restrictive language. Some of the modern language improvements will allow for more modern revenue sources and takeout options in the descriptions of neighborhood cafe and neighborhood grocery markets. Allow for more revenue options for barber and beauty shops to include salon and spa services. Allow for a new arts and crafts gallery and studio used to expand Gearhart's art sector. Allow for more options in the description of variety store to allow for more home and garden, apparel, and limited food sale options. Allow for residential options attached to certain businesses for employee and workforce housing needs. And make sure formula use franchises such as McDonald's and Starbucks cannot come in and compete with our existing locally owned and operated businesses. And last, ensure the neighborhood character of the downtown zone remains intact by continuing to prohibit adult shops, amusement parks and arcades, and Surrey-style vehicle rental shops. As local businesses have evolved and adapted to the changing times, the city wants to make sure the zoning code evolves and adapts with modern language to assure they survive and thrive. The city wants to attract new and vibrant businesses such as a modern neighborhood grocery market that can meet the needs of the community and provide for our residents while fitting in with the Gearhart character. Several businesses have shown the way to modernize the code already. They have evolved from what they were originally described and permitted for. The city has supported their evolving business ideas and now proposes to actually incorporate those methods into the C1 zone for the benefit and as an example of a viable C1 use. The public hearing will take place at the Gearhart Fire Station tomorrow with social distancing measures in place. Masks, of course, will be required, but the meeting will also be available online. And there's a link on our city blog and on my Facebook page so that you can join and participate online. I would recommend all of you participate. This will be a great opportunity for an explanation on how the current code works and how the new language would operate. And that way you can get any questions or concerns answered. It's crucial that you hear all of the facts. The public process is the most important part of what we do, and your feedback can lead to better legislation that serves our community now and in the future. So we hope that everyone can participate tomorrow. One last thing, it is obviously election season. I want to remind everyone how important it is to vote and to vote early. The ballots, I believe the voters pamphlets are already out, so hopefully you've gotten those. Ballots will be mailed out as soon as October 14th. And of course, out in front of City Hall, we do have a ballot drop-off box. So I want to encourage everyone to fill your ballots out early and put them in that box in Clatsop County. Thank you very much. Next up, we have councilor reports. And I'd like to kick things off with Councilor Fackrell.
I have nothing to report. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Rita. Next up, we have Dan Jesse.
I have nothing.
Thank you, Dan. Next up, we have Councilor Smith.
I'm not reporting at this time. Thank you, though.
Thank you, Carrie. And last but certainly not least, our Council President, Paulina Cochran, who's on mute. Paulina, you're still on mute. Can we unmute Paulina?
Yeah, I'm
There you are.
unmuted.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah,
All right.
on September 16th, I participated in the Parks Master Plan meeting. George Van Hoosen is chair of that committee, and we are building the plan as we go. So we're taking one chunk at a time, and what we basically talked about were our current inventory of parks and what things they have, what things they could stand to upgrade, and just other ideas within the scope of those parks. Next up, we're going to talk about reaching out to the community and how we want to go about doing that. Also, I had a CERT meeting on September 22nd. We did talk about the Great Oregon Shakeouts coming up on the 15th next week at 10:15 in the morning. And I'd like to remind people to try and get out and evacuate to your high ground location near you. And the CERT volunteers will be at the high ground places to at least sign people in and maybe give them something to commemorate the day. The CERT team also is come to consensus on purchasing a new ham radio system for City Hall that would also be able to become mobile if need be. And I'd like that to go on the agenda for next month so that we could get a council vote on that. It would be between $1,000 and $2,000 investment. And that's all I have right now.
Thank you very much, Councilor Cochran. And we'll make sure to put that on the agenda for next month. Next up, we have city officers' reports. Should have police and fire information in your packet. Also, our city treasurer, Gail, has, as she always does, has our latest budget financial statement in there for the public record. And with that, I will turn it over to our city attorney, Peter Watts. You have anything to report, Peter?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I actually will be coming out tomorrow for in person to staff the Planning Commission and help them get through that process. We did receive a letter from an attorney who is representing two interested parties, and so your Planning Commission obviously is very diligent, very careful in how they work and what they do, and so I'm not concerned. But Mayor, you said something that reminded me of something. It's that when I was growing up, I didn't get to live in Gearhart, but my grandparents would sometimes we'd travel with them and we'd come out, and so whenever I come to Gearhart, it always kind of reminds me of them, which is really nice. And I don't get the same feeling when I visit Seaside or Cannon Beach. And I think it's because those communities have changed so dramatically. And so I think that the great thing about Gearhart is that everybody understands how important it's set out in your comprehensive plan to preserve the character of Gearhart while also providing opportunities for residents and business owners. And so I think that the Planning Commission is going to obviously get a lot of audience participation, as we do on remotely, as we do on other important issues, but that they always have an eye towards that comp plan requirement of maintaining the unique character, and I think that's one of the reasons that Gearhart is what it is today. So hopefully we'll be doing some of that tomorrow night, and hopefully people will share their views, and we'll get to a great outcome like we did regarding the short-term rentals. I've received a couple of notices in the last month regarding the U.S. Bank Martha Strickland case. We are a party to that case. The attorneys representing the bank are seeking to refile that case. I have not yet, the court has not yet ruled on that, to my knowledge. I haven't received a notification that there's been a ruling. On the courts are among the hardest hit, if they're not businesses, but I'd say entities, because our court system is set up to be adversarial in nature. That's by design, and to give people an opportunity to confront witnesses and to offer testimony and all those things. And none of that is conducive to COVID-19. In person where, or even depositions where someone is in the same room with another person for hours are not something the government wants us to do. And so what we've seen, what many jurisdictions have seen on the civil side is that cases have really slowed down. And because on the criminal side, because of people's constitutional requirements, et cetera, or constitutional rights, et cetera, those to some extent need to be prioritized. So I don't have a great idea of the timeline for the U.S. Bank. It's been kind of lingering for a while, months, and as far as the other information, hopefully that those people who are represented by the attorney will be able to participate in the proceeding and hopefully get to an outcome where they don't need counsel. So I'm optimistic that we'll be able to get there tomorrow night.
Great, Peter. Thanks for the update. Any word real quick on the High Point location filing that we did to make sure that there were no problems building there? Yeah,
I mean, again, I think that any civil proceeding will be any civil proceedings are going to take more time than just more time right now.
For sure. Nope, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Peter. Next up, we have our city administrator, Chad Sweet's report. Chad, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just again, in regards to tomorrow night's meeting, we're looking forward to having it over at the fire station with all safety measures that we can put into place. It's going to be a challenge tomorrow in regards to, we're going to be trying out some new technology, and we're going to try to simulcast this particular meeting along with having a live meeting. So it's going to add a little bit of level of difficulty for sure. So please bear with us. We're going to try to slow it down a little bit and do the best that we can. And there may be, some troubles communicating, but we're going to work on it as it happens. So that'll be the first shot. One of the reasons that we're not doing these meetings for the city council at the moment live is because the only other large building that we have access to do meetings is the fire station. Again, I checked with the school to see if they would allow us to use some of their facilities, but right now they're kind of locked down because of COVID. So the fire station is is letting us use their facilities, but Wednesday nights is fire meeting night. So we'll continue to do this until things kind of shake up a little bit for us or come up with a new idea. So just a little report on revenue and expenses, budget versus actual. There's really no surprises in the budget at this point. The amount that we budgeted for revenue is slightly down as anticipated, and maybe even a little bit less than anticipated. I thought that our transient room tax would be a little bit less than what it is, but it's performing a little bit better. So I'm optimistic about that. Our expenses are a little bit higher than last year for the same period of time. And that can be attributed to a couple of different things. Number one is one of the changes that staff made to payroll. Payroll actually happens a little bit later now to kind of smooth out our system and to work better for our employees. So some of the expenses that were to be on last year ended up at the beginning of this year. And that was a little bit of a hit. But that will mostly wash out at the end of this next year or current year, because we'll be doing the same sort of procedure. So I feel good about that. One of the other increases to expenses that we've seen is in firefighter overtime. And that is because of our volunteers that went to the Oregon fires and the California fires so far at the beginning of this year, or this fiscal year. We have paid them for their time and are waiting for reimbursement from both Oregon and California. So I think the budget is in good shape, and I don't have any concerns at this time. We should be being paid by Oregon fairly soon, and then California afterwards. And just as an update, we currently have a crew of 4 firefighters along with the Clatsop County Task Force in California at the moment. But it sounds like there's a potential they may be coming home day after tomorrow. So that'll be nice to have them back in the area. Any questions about that so far? Some special projects we're working on, Oregon Solutions. Thank you, Council and Mayor, for the work session that we had. Quick recap is we just kind of, along with Manuel and a few others, explained to the Council how we came about the process and some of the things that we're going to be working toward in the future with ELF. We're probably looking at another meeting coming up in December or January, moving forward with that. So I'll have some news to report then. Ridge Path, Duncan's Crossing is moving forward. We've done a dig out, and there's a potential within the next few days we are going to start some concrete. I've been working with a wonderful group of volunteers that have been helped pushing that, and they've been a lot of fun to work with, including Steve Ehrman, who is kind of putting together volunteer work groups, and Russ Taggart from the Planning Commission, who's been giving me a lot of building advice and helping with the columns and the dig outs. And again, with a nice donation from Keith Carrigan, who did the digging at no cost to the city, which was wonderful. Paulina, thank you. The Great Oregon Shakeout, we'll be blogging this tomorrow, but the flyer is here. We're looking forward to having as many people. Just for muscle memory, exercising the tsunami evacuation zones, city staff, some of the firefighters, and certainly our CERT volunteers will be out there. So we will see you on October 15th at 10:15 a.m. We're also going to be handing out some information on the emergency cash container program, which is where people can store things, personal items, up and out of the inundation zone. So the next access date will be Saturday, October 17th, after the shakeout on Thursday. So any existing members who currently have cash items up at the cash site must notify us in advance so that their drums are pulled out and ready for them. And we still have drums available for purchase at $70. And we still have some drums that are available at no cost due to a wonderful donation that we received from a family to make some barrels accessible to people that don't have them. Paulina and I have been continuing to work on the employee handbook. And so we're getting down really to probably more than 90% finished, and we'll have more to report on that soon. For grant updates, the 2019 State Homeland Security Program, we have purchased the water purification units. We purchased another storage box, or a Connex box, if you will, and we're waiting for those to arrive, and then we'll be wrapping up the final paperwork on that, and then take some time to celebrate that here in the future. Next Parks Master Plan meeting for the committee is going to be October 21st. And we're going to be working on some of the future parks vision and needs. And this is all to get towards the public portion of this, to where we can start taking public input. But that won't be the October 21st meeting yet. We're going to be reviewing that again in November. Looks like we have in Seaside the election forum this Thursday at 6 p.m. Link to that event will be posted on the Seaside Signal and the American Association of University Women and the KMUN websites and social media pages. Also of note, due to COVID, the county has provided the cities in Clatsop County with new vote drop boxes. So the city of Gearhart has installed our drop box in front of City Hall, just to the southeast corner of City Hall. And we didn't really have a way to install it for people to drop ballots off in their cars, but we put it as close to the street as possible. So as Matt said, I believe it's the 14th, we're going to start receiving our ballots. That would be the place that you would drop your ballots off, and then the county will be collecting them. We're no longer taking ballots inside the city of Gearhart. That's all that I got to report for now. Mayor, Council.
Great stuff, Chad. Councilors, do you have any questions for our city administrator?
I just have one, and that was from the minutes. The grant for the Mechanicsum watershed was in the minutes, the $1,000 grant, and you were wanting some feedback from all of us so that we could decide what we wanted to do. Do we need to put that back on an agenda for a later discussion, or has that been figured out?
We did, and we had that period of time where we were soliciting information from you, the councilors, and then a meeting after that, we had a small discussion to where I came up with your help, 5 items, and we submitted that to the Mechanicsum Watershed Council. There has been some back and forth, and they've got some ideas, and with Christie's help, we will report on that during the next meeting in November.
Okay.
Great, thank you, and thanks again to Paulina and Chad for all their hard work on the employee handbook. I did get together, was able to get together with Paulina the other day and go over some of the items she's been working on, and they're really well done, and should be finished up soon. So again, thanks for all your hard work on that. Next up, we have correspondence. Does anyone have any comments or anything on any of the correspondence we received? I did want to give a shout out to everyone's favorite pickleballer, Wally Hamer. Did write a nice letter saying that the new pickleball court temporary, or the nets and everything with the lines that were drawn on the East tennis court have been so popular. He's actually asking if we want to make some more lines on the other court. So that's something I'm sure the council will discuss in the future. Also, he wanted to get an update on if we've had a chance to talk about possible pickleball courts on the Parks Master Plan Committee. So I know that's probably something that'll come up as well. And I hope with the popularity of everything, I hope it's something that that is discussed in the future for sure.
So Mayor, will on the next council agenda, will we be speaking about the next two pickleball courts that Mr. Hamer has desired?
If the council would like to have that on next week's agenda, I'd be happy to have Chad put that on there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to see it there.
Great.
Can we make it next month's agenda and not next week's?
I'm sorry. No, let's
Yeah.
go to next week's. Let's do that.
Well, tomorrow's.
Yeah, tomorrow's meeting would be fine.
No, I think that's a great idea. We'll put that on next month's agenda. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'll go back to mute.
Okay, great. Okay, next up we have our visitors comment section. And Chad, do we have anyone signed up on your list so far?
I'll double check here real quick there. Do a little refresh. No, not at this point.
Okay, we don't have anyone signed up, but if anyone would like to speak right now, we'll take folks. Just please announce your name and your address for the record. And at this point, would anyone else like to comment? Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, thanks folks for anyone listening in. Next up, we have ordinances and resolutions, which we have none on tonight's agenda. Old business, nothing. New business. First up, we have the Domestic Violence Awareness Month proclamation, and I'll turn that over to Chad.
Thank you, Mayor. Due to some correspondence that we received, also through the mayor, the city was contacted by the harbor to request that October 2020 be declared Domestic Violence Awareness Month. A form of proclamation was attached for consideration in the past, and the city has granted funds in support of the harbor and its advocacy in behalf of survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking. So our recommendation is that the council read and adopt the enclosed proclamation via signature to show the city's support for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we'll just take a motion by a councilor to read the proclamation and to adopt it.
Okay, do we hear a motion to basically create a resolution for the proclamation? Is that how it works?
I move that we read the Domestic Violence Awareness Month proclamation
Okay,
and adopt it.
okay, great. So we have a motion by Councilor Smith. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Second by Councilor Jesse. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, anyone
Aye.
opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Chad, would you like to read the proclamation?
Absolutely. So whereas the first Domestic Violence Month was observed in October 1987, the same year that saw the initiation of the first national domestic violence toll-free hotline. And in 1989, Congress designated October as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And whereas domestic violence is a pattern of assaultive and coercive behaviors, including physical, psychological, sexual, and economic abuse, social isolation, and stalking, that are used to maintain power and control over a person's intimate partner. And whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's dignity, safety, and basic human rights. And whereas domestic violence is the single largest cause of injury and homicide for women. And whereas children exposed to domestic violence experience terror, isolation, guilt, helplessness, and grief, and have a higher risk of engaging in criminal behavior and substance abuse and becoming victims of crime. And whereas domestic violence is the single largest cause of injury and homicide for women, and whereas domestic violence impacts the health and well-being for our community, and whereas it is incumbent on every citizen to play a role in preventing and ending domestic violence. Now, therefore, says I, Matt Brown, Mayor of Deer Heart, proclaim October 2020 to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the city of Deer Heart, and encourage all Deer Heart residents to join in this observance. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Okay, next up, we have our accountant, Dennis Connor audit engagement letter, and I'll turn that over to Chad as well.
Thank you, Mayor and councilors. The attached letter describes the audit procedure from our auditor, Dennis Connor. The council options are to make a motion to engage in auditing services with Dennis Connor or do nothing. Recommendation is staff recommends the council make a motion to engage in auditing services by Dennis Connor. A simple resolution is necessary. The city is required to engage in budget auditing services, and Mr. Connor's firm has performed this duty at an acceptable cost for many years. The fees are accounted for in the budget, so we don't have any worries there. Thank you.
So council options, make a motion. Would anyone like to make a motion to engage in auditing services by Dennis Connor?
I'll make a motion to engage in auditing services by Dennis Connor. And I do have a couple of questions.
Cool. So we have a motion by Councilor Cockrum. Do we hear a
I
second? So we have a second by Councilor Smith, and discussion. Anyone want to discuss or ask questions?
I did notice that the date of the letter was around the 1st of August. Have we started the audit process yet, or what is the time frame for him doing the audit and us getting the report?
Thank you, Paulina. So yeah, this was just kind of lost in the mix for a period of time, but once we figured out where this letter was, we brought it to the council for this month. We haven't submitted anything to Dennis Connor yet, but city staff, especially Gail, has been very busy in collecting all the information that they usually ask for. So I've noticed when you come in, you'll see boxes behind Gail, and that's the collection of information. So I think we're going to be able to make all of our timelines, and then the audit will be done, I believe, near the end of this winter. And then you'll be getting that report prior to the budget process for sure.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other questions or discussion before we take a vote? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mayor and councilors. And just to confirm, according to the agreement, his intention is to have the audit done by December 31st.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Okay, next up under new business, we have our buildable lands inventory report. This will be interesting. And I'll, once again, Chad, you can take it away.
Okay, I'll start by kind of reading the synopsis, and then, Carol, we'll let Ms. Carol Connell kind of take over. This is in her bailiwick, and it's been very educational for me for sure. Carol has done a good job of helping with this process. So the synopsis is last year we reviewed the 2018 Clatsop County Housing Study, to which we provided some money to the county for. And so the cities in the county came together and put a larger sum towards kind of figuring out what's going on in the county. But when we reviewed the document, concern was raised regarding the accuracy of the reports, especially with vacant land inventory, projected housing capacity for Gearhart. Staff and local builders reviewed the inventory and determined the data was inaccurate. It was close, but not close enough. Having been prepared for the county as a whole, it was kind of a high-level overview, and that's really what we expected. But local builders have been frustrated by the lack of vacant land inventory and asked about an option to expand the urban growth boundary. So we decided, Carol and I had some discussions, and we decided that an accurate inventory in Gearhart was needed. So while the inventory for the county process was fresh on the mind of the company we used, we decided to ask them to go a little bit deeper, which I think was a really good cost savings for the city. So Angelo Planning Group, the same planning consultant who prepared the county housing study, was hired by the city to complete the residential buildable lands inventory, which is attached. In summary, where the earlier county study indicated the city had enough vacant land for 701 new dwellings, the recently completed Gearhart inventory actually finds capacity for 381 new dwellings. The report provides solid data to update the housing element of the comprehensive plan. And staff worked pretty hard on this too. Once we had some basic information down again, we actually went around and verified on map all of the vacant and not vacant pieces of property. And we did that, just about a month and a half ago, if that long. And we feel like the information that's in here now is much more accurate. So with that, Ms. Carol Connell, our planner, can take over from there.
Okay, thank you, Chad. Mayor and Council, I assume you have the report. And really, we're here representing Angelo Planning Group. And if there are questions that you have of them, we will take those questions back for any, like technical issues that you might have problems with. This is a draft, and I'm happy to go through it. I'm not quite sure how much time you have for this, but I would start out by saying, first of all, that this is really a basis for our housing element and our urban growth boundary location, and in the event that we ever need to expand, the housing element is the most important issue. And so in order to do that, it's being a statewide LCDC goals for urban growth boundary expansions and for housing need, the inventory has to follow a standard process of how they identify these lands. And so that it's the administrative rules and the Portland State population projections over a long period of time are really the basis for how they make these estimates. And I'll just tell you before we go into the report in any further detail, Gearhart is a little different because the statewide inventory process is to determine what the local need is, what the permanent housing need is. And then that helps us define our urban growth boundary. If we run out of housing for our permanent population, then we have a good case to expand the urban growth boundary. It does not factor in the same way second homes. And so here we are in Gearhart, and there are of course dozens of communities with the same situation in the state that service a large second home population. This inventory is really a basis for permanent housing, and it could go further into studying the second home element, but it's a little more tricky. And it doesn't really follow the state standards of these needs to determine what our needs will be. It's, but just to back up from the one thing that Chad said, to find in that first study that you looked at last year, that we had room for 701 new dwellings by the year 2038. And that's been cut in half plus. We now really know that we only have room for 381 new dwellings until the year 2038. Now today, Mark Bryan might tell you that we're getting 20 a year, and that's going to run out sooner. And we think it's because of the amount of second homes being built. So there's kind of a conflict with our goals. We do need to we have this now as an update to our comprehensive plan. I would like to proceed with amending the plan and inserting the data so that we can keep current and be much more accurate than relying on the county study. And that would be the next step, to go to the Planning Commission, and I would have to be involved in developing the findings and based on the state goals and the state statutes. But there is this sort of tricky aspect, and Angela Planning basically said, it may be a really hot market for second homes now and last year and maybe next year, but PSU population projections really are looking long term. Their population projections are long term, and there will be dips that we can count on that even this out. And so I don't know if you see, I know that Steve Olstad is on the line, and he helped us to get this, to refine our inventory. He and was it Jim Osborne actually went out, as did Chad, and really looked closely. Where are the new houses? How many lots are left? And that helped us to cut this way, way back. But I think it does still clearly say we do not need to expand our urban growth boundary. Not quite factoring in fully the second home issue. So the study is all there laid out for you. I think the most interesting issues are, we have, for instance, we have density limits in our residential zones, but we can't really achieve the densities in the R3 zone that we would think we could or would possibly like to get some more affordable housing, for two reasons. One is the septic system demand for land, and the other now is our tsunami hazard overlay zone, where the R3 zoning does not allow a maximum of any more than 10 units per acre. So what our R3 zone says you can have 16 dwelling units per acre. The tsunami hazard overlay zone you adopted will not let it go that high. And that's unusual in the state. There's on page 5, there's a summary of the kind of constraints that we have in Gerhardt that are not typical everywhere. And so that is one, the tsunami hazard overlay zone. The second is the septic requirements. The third is the oceanfront building line, which in that high level view, I think that land out there in front of the building line was counted as potentially developable. And of course, we all know that's highly a no-no. And so the consultants found some interesting things they don't see around the state very often to really narrow down what we have available. Because of course, then you look at, if you look at the constraints on map, what page is a good one? Gerhardt's constraints, page 8, you'll find the floodplain, the oceanfront development prohibition, the tsunami inundation scenario, and wetlands really cover a lot of our geography. And a lot of land that was considered possibly buildable in the county study has been taken out. That's how we got from 701 to 318. whatever it is. So the development status map on page 12. It's a little tricky on a copy here, but then that shows you even more blatantly anything that's green is vacant and anything that's yellow is partially vacant. So it's a piece of property here and there, mainly on the east side. And a lot of it on the east side we know is in wetlands and underwater or wet. And things that are in the tsunami hazard overlay zone also cross out quite a bit of vacant land. And so I think that summarizes, you know, we came away right in our analysis a year ago that the count was way off and way too high, but we still have capacity for a number of units until the year 2038, which surprisingly isn't that far away. So
Carol,
with that, do we have any questions?
Peter, go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure I was reading this right. Are they saying that in the next 18 years, Clatsop County will only need 94 new households? And
No,
I'm
this is
looking at,
Gerhardt.
oh, this is, okay, this is Gerhardt.
Yeah.
I mean, that is counter to all of our data.
For Gerhardt or for the county?
Just based on permits being processed?
Well, not in the long term, not based on population estimates by Portland State Foundation for all the housing estimates that they do.
So there's a couple things to where this can be updated more often, knowing that things are getting busier here in our community. Now that we've gone from not having, I mean, the last time this study was done was over 20 years ago, I think, in Gerhardt, and we've gone a long way to getting a good data set now. I think it would behoove us to keep an eye on things on the short-term basis and make some updates to this information in the future. And then we're also about to go through another census, which may make adjustments to this data again based on the facts on the ground. So with the census only being 10 years and that distance of time occurring with the census, that's the way that PSU estimates these things, which is a problem. So I think we should keep our eyes on it and have conversations.
Yeah, it's a good start and it's, go ahead.
Yeah, any other questions for Carol?
Well, I have a comment. If we have buildable lands that are wetlands, is that a development that can happen and be counted as a viable buildable lot?
That would be considered, based on what I think you said, a constraint that makes it unbuildable.
Okay, and the lots that they counted on the county, and I'm sure I have a very limited printer available to me where I am, but the piano key lots that were counted as all buildable in the county housing study, those are not buildable according to what we have as far as no building beyond the Palmer line. But is that being also counted in this 370 or 380 group of lots? I can't tell with my printout.
No.
So they've been taken out.
Yes. The primary elements that have been removed that reduce the number by so much were the piano key, the tsunami hazard overlay zone limitation in certain areas, and the septic requirements that we may have a number of sprinkled lots around town that you think you can build that are still vacant, but you can't if you don't have 10,000 square feet. And they could not identify those fine details at the county level. And
Okay.
then, of course, wetlands and floodplain are obviously automatically taken out as well.
Okay, but previously in a, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had us pass a correction in the buildable lands that anything over 5,000 square feet is a buildable lot if it's a lot of record. So the 10,000 square feet is not a constraint anymore if they build an above ground septic system, i.e. they put the filtration system above and they pump through.
And I can answer that one, Carol, if you'd like. So you are correct, Carrie. So if you are an owner, because Gearhart was originally platted at 5,000 square foot lots throughout, and then that was changed. But anybody that owned a 5,000 square foot lot at that point could build onto that. As a matter of fact, our minimum in Gearhart is 4,000 square feet. And there's very few lots that are of that size that can be built on. But if you own two 5,000 square feet parcels next to each other, you cannot build two separate houses. You have to build one. You have to upgrade it to the 10,000 square foot lot. So when we were going through this process, we made sure that I went over the maps and really counted how many lots were in single ownership at 5,000 square feet without an adjacent lot attached to it that was also owned by the same people. So that kind of cut out some of the available buildable lands also that they didn't calculate when they did it with the county. So that's kind of how that worked.
And that was something new to the consultants. They hadn't seen something quite like that. Like you said, a lot of record is typically automatically developable, but in Gearhart, it's not the case if you own two adjoining.
Right, but all you have to do is sell off one of those lots to a non-named entity, i.e. your daughter-in-law, and both of them are developable. But that,
Yeah, Chad has a way Chad, tell him how you know that. I've always asked that question too.
I'm not saying that it would never happen, but it's something we pay attention to. There's times to where we're notified and looking for any liens or properties when they're being sold. And part of what I do when a lien comes across is take a look at the ownership. Also, prior to development, I can go back and see who has owned that lot in the past. And if I notice if one was being sold without our knowledge and it was owned by the same person that owned the adjacent lot, at that point we can stop the construction, and that becomes an event between the two owners now. Because you get into Peter, what is it called? You have to declare all the issues that will be. So anyway, that will become a civil suit between the two owners. And so far, I haven't been able to catch anybody doing it, but I have taken a lot of phone calls asking if it could be done.
okay.
Good questions, guys. Any other questions for Carol?
I did have one question with regard to the R3, Carol, that you were talking about, and also the tsunami overlay. Just like what parts of the city in general are you talking about?
So if you look at page 6, you'll see where the R3 is, and that's a very limited piece. It's really just up at the hotel condo McMenamins.
And
It's that one neighborhood. Yeah.
But it's already been developed is the issue.
But it's already been developed, yeah. And, but if we rezoned any land to R3, which we kind of considered with the Palmberg, in order to get some more affordable housing, you would have run into the problem of the wetlands potentially, but more so the tsunami hazard overlay zone would have wiped that potential out there.
And
You
the,
can still do 10 per acre.
Yes,
You can still do 10 per acre though.
yeah, right.
I mean,
But
that's,
16 to 10 is, you know, for somebody who's trying to do high density and get returns, I think that can turn out to be a significant number, a significant difference. But it's still 10.
mhm.
Okay, so we will, if you don't have anything specific that you'd like to know more about, we will finalize this draft, this memorandum, and make it part of our background data that we can, I guess we'll try and at some point update the housing element of the comprehensive plan so that we have it adopted. Can I take a minute, Mr. Mayor, to go back to the C1 zoning conversation tomorrow night?
Yes, of course.
I want to make sure, Peter, that there's 3 attorney letters that I hope you'll be able to look at. One is from Jill. You have all 3? Oh, good, great. And that was an awfully good introduction, Mr. Mayor. Can we copy that, or are you coming, or?
I will not be coming, but you're absolutely welcome to any of my statements, and I have paper copies of them for sure. So would love to have you read that or whatever you need it for. It's on my mayor's Facebook page as well.
Okay.
I'll get that over to you, but again, you know, I'm very proud of the work that you and staff and the Planning Commission have done on this. It's really, really good work, and you know, we've been around for a while. A lot of us have been on the Planning Commission. A lot of us have worked with you, Carol, and staff, and it's really good work, and it's really diligent work. So I wish everyone the best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you, and with your help too, it was a collaborative effort. So I hope it passes the legal muster. And the legal criticism appears to be focused on arbitrary words like primarily and some of the definitions, and they feel that the city will be going around taking inventories of everybody's stock in their stores. So
we all know with code, there's a lot of nuances and everything. Yeah. And what I think is great about the public process is you can get a lot of that information out. You can clear up language that might be confusing. And, you know, that's where feedback from the public is really helpful. You know, I hope tomorrow that you get some really constructive ideas as well. You know, we saw that a lot with the short-term rental ordinances, and you took a lot of feedback from the public, and we're able to craft it and change any confusing information. So I think you'll be able to do really well.
Because of COVID, we really encouraged written letters in advance, and we received like 17 letters, so that's a lot.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Any other questions for Carol on the housing stuff? Okay. All right, good work. Love updating the comp plan with new data. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Okay. Put it on our list.
Yeah. Okay, next up, folks, we have council concerns. And why don't we kick things off with Councilor Jesse?
I have nothing.
Okay. How about Councilor Smith?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself there for a second. So I understand that the school district has gotten another offer. I'm not sure if that's correct, but that was what the rumor mill said when I was in town last week. But even if it is or isn't, I would like the council to start thinking about incorporating the Gerhardt School property, if this is their wish. I mean, it is mine. It's into our Parks Master Plan, and I think it would be a great addition. We'll have a meeting room. We could. I have other ideas for the main building and get rid of all those modules, but anyway, I just wanted to put it out there so the council can just think about it and maybe express their feelings next month if they want to pursue this, because if it doesn't go through, this new offer that they've supposedly have gotten, it would be a great addition to our parks plan as far as I'm concerned. And that's all my concerns are.
Thanks, Gary. Great for sure. And we could definitely put that on the agenda. Next up, we have Councillor Fackrell.
Hey, Mayor, I agree with Carrie 100%, but my question to you or Chad is, do we know why the last buyer dropped out, and what do we know about the buyer who's currently negotiating with the school district?
I don't know how much of that information is public information. So I can tell you, go ahead, Chad.
I think the previous buyer put in an offer contingent on the city making changes to the zoning, and I don't think that was necessarily the issue. It may have had to be with the amount that person who wanted to purchase it was actually offering, because I think the school is trying to maximize the amount that they get. Moving forward, I don't really have any information about who the current purchaser is. We've talked to a lot of different people, and I'm not sure what is to be made public or not, so I can't really speculate too much there. Is that about accurate, Mayor Brown?
Yeah, I don't know for sure. The district hasn't made public the name of the folks that have put the offer in. So I can't tell you for sure. I can tell you that we have met with folks that are interested in some different ideas. But if that information becomes public, and if the information about the current possible buyer becomes public, then it becomes public information. As far as the last buyer, yeah, Chad, I think you're right. From what I understand, an offer was made, and then the offer was rejected from the school board for the last one. The price was, or the price was.
Thank you.
Okay, next up under councillor concerns, we have Councillor Paulina Cockrum.
I think my concerns have already been addressed earlier in the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you, Paulina. And I don't have any concerns at all. So with that, do we hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that.
All right. A motion by Councillor Fackrell and a second by Councillor Jesse. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All right, meeting adjourned. Thanks, folks.
Bye-bye.
Everybody take care.
Yep.
Take care.
Appreciate everybody. Thank you so much.